At my daughter's wedding that I paid for, the hotel staff stopped me at the entrance and said, "Your name isn't on the guest list." Confused, I called my ex-wife and she said, "Yes, that's right, this event is only for real family. Go home, we will send you leftovers," my ex-wife's new husband said. I quietly walked away, but just hours later they called me in a panic because her fiancé called off the wedding. Chapter 1. Left outside the door. The hotel lobby smelled of roses and champagne, the kind of place where every chandelier seemed to glow brighter just for the guests who mattered. I had been rehearsing a toast in my head all morning, words for my daughter, words about love, about pride, about the years I had worked double shifts to make this day possible. I adjusted my tie, handed my invitation to the staff and waited for the nod that would let me through. Instead the guard frowned. "Sir, your name isn't on the guest list." I laughed at first, certain it was a mistake. "Check again, I'm the father of the bride, I paid for this entire event." The guard checked, shook his head, cold, final, not listed. Confused, I stepped aside and pulled out my phone. My ex-wife answered on the second ring, her voice was smooth, dripping with rehearsed cruelty. "Yes, that's right, you're not on the list, this event is only for real family." Then another voice cut in, smug, mocking, her new husband, "Go home, old man, we'll send you leftovers." From across the lobby I saw them, my ex-wife and her husband, standing just far enough away to watch me with smirks on their faces. My chest tightened, the guard waited for me to argue, to shout, to cause a scene, but I didn't. I nodded once, pocketed my phone and walked out. No words, no fight, just silence. Because some insults don't need a reply, they need a reckoning. Chapter 2. The call that changed everything. I spent the evening alone, sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at the suit jacket still draped neatly over the chair. My phone lay silent on the nightstand, the echo of their laughter still stinging in my ears. I had been humiliated at my own daughter's wedding, or so I thought. The first ring. It was just after midnight when my phone lit up. I didn't recognize the number, I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. On the other end was chaos, voices shouting, a woman sobbing. Then finally, my ex-wife's voice, stripped of arrogance, trembling with panic. "Please, you have to come, it's your daughter," he called off the wedding, right there, at the altar. "Everything is ruined, we don't know what to do." I sat in silence, letting her desperation hang heavy. The collapse. The story tumbled out between sobs. The groom had discovered something just hours before the ceremony, something damning. In front of the guests, he refused to say his vows. He handed back the ring and walked out, leaving whispers and scandal in his wake. The lavish wedding I had paid for had turned into a public disaster, and the family who mocked me was now the center of shame. And the guests? They had seen it all. My response. I waited until her voice cracked into silence before speaking. "Come, even. Hours ago, you told me I wasn't family, that I didn't belong. Tonight when everything was falling apart, you remembered my number. Interesting, isn't it?" She stammered, begged, tried to say she was sorry. But I didn't argue, I didn't raise my voice. I simply hung up the hook. For years they had dismissed me. Tonight, the humiliation had come full circle, only this time it wasn't mine to carry. Because the worst part of betrayal is that, when the world crumbles, the ones you pushed away are never there to catch you. And I wasn't about to catch them. Chapter 3. The secrets behind the broken engagement. The next morning I sat with my coffee, half expecting another round of desperate calls. They came, but I ignored them. Instead I checked the local news and social feeds. And there it was. The truth was spreading faster than the wedding rumors. The groom's discovery guests had leaked details. The groom had received proof that very morning, photos, messages, undeniable evidence, that my ex-wife and her new husband had been manipulating finances, siphoning funds, and even attempting to tie his family into shady business deals. Worse, whispers suggested my daughter had been dragged into it, pressured by her mother's greed to sign agreements without fully understanding. The groom, realizing marriage would chain his family to theirs, chose the only path left. He ended it publicly. The fallout. The scandal was instant. Guests filmed the confrontation, and clips went viral. The groom handing back the ring, my ex-wife's face turning pale, the whispers spreading through the ballroom like fire. Overnight, her carefully constructed reputation as a respectable matriarch crumbled. Business partners pulled out, citing ethical concerns. Her new husband's name was dragged through the mud. The very people who laughed as I was denied entry now stood as the centerpiece of public disgrace. My daughter beneath all this, though, was the part that mattered most. My daughter. The one whose wedding day had been ruined. I learned through a mutual friend that she had fled the venue in tears, devastated. Not because the marriage ended, but because she realized how much her mother's arrogance and greed had cost her. For the first time, she wasn't standing beside them. She wasn't laughing with them. She was alone, questioning everything. And that was when I knew my moment would come, not to gloat, not to mock, but to show her what true family meant. The scandal had swallowed the wedding whole. My ex-wife and her new husband were too busy trying to salvage their reputation to notice the one person who mattered most. My daughter. The visit. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, she stood there. Still in shock, her makeup-free face pale from sleepless nights. She looked younger, fragile, nothing like the confident bride who was supposed to walk down the aisle. Her voice cracked. "Dad, can I come in?" She sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she barely touched. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't know. I didn't know Mom and him were doing this. I thought they were looking out for me. I thought you were the problem." Her eyes filled with tears. "And when you weren't there at the wedding, I hated you for it. But then I found out why. And I realized you were the only one who ever showed up for me." The breaking of chains. For years my ex-wife had poisoned her against me, painting me as bitter, as small, as unworthy. And for years I swallowed the pain of watching my daughter drift further into their orbit. But now, finally, she saw through it. Not because I forced her, not because I fought back, but because truth has a way of surfacing when lies collapse under their own weight. She reached for my hand. "I don't want anything from them anymore. I just want you." My silent victory. I didn't need to say much. I just squeezed her hand, steady, like I had when she was a child. Because in that moment, the revenge was complete. Her mother had wanted me erased from the wedding, erased from her life. But instead, she had erased herself. Chapter 5. The Public Reckoning. The scandal of the cancelled wedding still simmered. But for families like theirs, silence was survival. My ex-wife thought she could bury it with time, with money, with carefully crafted lies. But this time, the lie was too large. And I was done letting her rewrite history. The gathering storm. 2 weeks later, the hotel released a statement confirming the wedding bill hadn't been paid. Guests whispered that the father of the bride, me, had been cut out, despite footing most of the cost in advance. Word spread in the community. I had been humiliated at the entrance, denied by my own ex-wife while her new husband mocked me. At first, I stayed quiet. Silence had always been my sharpest weapon. But then, an opportunity came. A community fundraiser dinner where half the wedding guests, business partners, and family friends would be gathered. The perfect stage. The reveal. That night, I didn't arrive alone. I came with paperwork, invoices, receipts, transfers, proof that I had financed the wedding, down to the last rose centerpiece and the marble dance floor. When the MC passed me the mic for a short thank you speech, I smiled politely and began, "Some of you might wonder why I wasn't at my own daughter's wedding. I'll tell you why. Because despite paying for it, I was told I wasn't family. I was told to go home. I was told I'd get leftovers." Gasps rippled through the hall. I started toward my ex-wife and her husband, whose faces had gone pale. I raised the folder. "Here are the receipts. Every penny I spent. The only thing I didn't pay for was their arrogance." The collapse phones came out. Guests whispered louder, some openly filming. My ex-wife's new husband tried to stand sputtering excuses, but the weight of proof and the scandal of the cancelled wedding drowned him out. The public reckoning had arrived. Their image as a respectable, untouchable couple was shattered. The hook. I ended with calm, deliberate words. Family isn't about lists or titles or arrogance. It's about loyalty. And loyalty was never on their guest list. I left the stage to silence. Not applause, not cheers. Just silence. The kind that meant reputations were already burning. Chapter 6. The final lesson. The fundraiser dinner ended with silence pressing down on the hall like a heavy curtain. My ex-wife and her new husband sat frozen, their carefully sculpted image shattered in front of the very people whose approval they had always craved. The aftershocks. The fallout spread fast. Business partners who once courted her husband now refused to take his calls. Friends who laughed at me at the hotel door quietly unfollowed them, unwilling to be associated with scandal. Their social circle, the one they had chosen over loyalty, over truth, evaporated overnight. Reputation, once their armor, had turned into ashes. My daughter's strength. But the most important aftermath wasn't theirs. It was my daughter's. She came to see me days later. No entourage, no pretenses, no weight of her mother's lies pressing her shoulders down. She looked me in the eye with a steadiness that surprised me. "Dad, I know now. I know who was really there for me all along. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it." I didn't need her apology. Her presence was enough. In that moment, I realized revenge hadn't just humbled the arrogant. It had given my daughter clarity. It had broken the chains of lies she'd been wrapped in for years. The closing circle. I thought back to that night at the hotel entrance. The guard's cold words. "Your name isn't on the guest list." They had tried to erase me. But in the end, their arrogance had erased themselves. Because when the dust settled, I was the only one left standing beside my daughter. The lesson. Humiliation stings in the moment. But silence and truth have longer memories than arrogance ever will. And when lies finally crumble, those who mocked you will come crawling back. Not because you changed, but because the truth never needed their permission to survive. Epilogue. Years later. You asked me to continue. Let's carry this story one step further into the years after, where the lesson truly settles. Where they ended up. My ex-wife and her new husband never recovered. Their names, once whispered in admiration at dinners and galas, became a warning. Don't let arrogance blind you. Her husband's business collapsed within a year, blacklisted by partners who didn't want to risk association. She tried to claw her way back into social circles, but doors stayed closed. Even the people who once laughed with her at that hotel lobby now looked the other way when she appeared. They lived, but diminished. A daily reminder of what pride without loyalty can cost. Where my daughter stood. My daughter's journey was slower. The humiliation of that cancelled wedding left scars, but with time she healed. She built her own path, away from her mother's shadow, grounded in humility instead of pretense. She invited me into her new life. Birthdays, holidays, milestones. Not out of pity, but because she finally understood who had always been in her corner. The bond that betrayal once strained was rebuilt stronger than before. Where I found peace, I thrived quietly. My work, my circle of real friends, my peace of mind, they grew without the constant poison of their arrogance. I didn't need to flaunt my revenge. It spoke for itself every time I walked into a room with my head high, and they couldn't meet my eyes. The final lesson. That night at the hotel, when the guard said, "Your name isn't on the guest list," it felt like the end of something. But in truth, it was only the beginning, because years later, the only list that mattered wasn't written on paper or guarded at a door. It was the list of people who had stayed true, loyal, and real. And on that list, my name will never be forgotten. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you have think about this story in the comments below.